Okay. That verse recalls the Israelites asking the prophet for a king to lead them into battle. It clearly refers to the same historical moment found in 1 Samuel 8 and 9, when the Israelites asked the prophet Samuel to appoint a king, which became Saul. The Quran is retelling the story, but notably leaves out Samuel's name, calling him the one of their prophets. It then explicitly says that the Israelites want to fight in the way of Allah. But it's on the same story. So this is crucial because the Quran is affirming the entire episode as an act of commissioned and approved by Allah. If Muslims argue that the wars in 1 Samuel 15 were immoral and not from God, this verse is the starting of it, refutes them. The Quran itself confirms that these Israelite wars, include Saul's, were fought in the cause of Allah. There is no Quranic disclaimer saying that these battles were excessive or not commanded by God. Instead, the Quran endorses the same wars it claims to supersede. Now, here is 247, next one. Their prophet said to them, indeed, Allah has appointed Saul. So in the next verse, it talks about Saul, okay? Talut, as king over you. They said, how can he be our king when we are more worthy of kingship than he, and he has not been given the abundance of wealth? He said, indeed, Allah has chosen him over you and increased him abundantly in knowledge and stature, and Allah gives his sovereignty over whom he wills. Right? Here the prophet declares Saul's kingship as Allah's decision. The people question it, but the prophet insists that Saul, called Talut, was chosen by Allah himself. Again, the Quran explicitly roots this event in divine command. That means the wars Saul led, okay, include the destruction of Amalekites, were carried out under Allah's appointment according to this text. So when Muslims attack 1 Samuel 15 as again immoral, God commanding Saul to destroy Amalek, they're attacking their own scriptures, because the Quran presents Saul's appointment and his subsequent wars as Allah's doing. No verse corrects or condemns these wars. Instead, the Quran sanctifies them by associating them with Allah's kingship and will. Now you go to 248. All we got to do is go to 248 next, okay? When we go to 248, we see the prophet said to them, the sign of the kingship is the ark will come to you, in which is assurance from your Lord and a remnant of what the family of Moses and the family of Aaron left, carried by angels. Indeed, in that sign for you, if you are believers. So the Quran says that the return of the Ark of the Covenant confirms Saul's kingship. By the way, there's an irony to this, I'm going to talk about it. It presents the Ark as the divine sign and a vessel containing sacred relics associated with Moses and Aaron. Now notice the irony. The Quran, while forbidding images, acknowledges that the Ark contains relics and the cherubim figures, which you find in Exodus 25, 18 to 22. Yet it claims that Allah approved this ark as a sign of divine presence. So therefore Allah validated the Old Testament object that the Muslims often label as idolatrous. It also means that God, who authorized Saul's rule and therefore his battles, is the same God the Quran calls Allah, confirming the wars as divine and not human excesses. Okay? Remember these revelations he's giving it to Muhammad, thousands of years after it's already taken place. At no point does he say, you know what, I'm really upset about the fact that they sat down and unalived women and children or animals. None. He's just relating it as this is what he's saying, this is what I commanded him. Now remember, when God puts you into a war, he knows what the outcome is. He has foreknowledge, so he would have known what would happen there. So what's happening in the Quran is that they're paraphrasing that episode. They're paraphrasing it, but they're owning up to it that their own Allah did this. 249, chapter 2 verse 249, it continues. When Saul set out with the army, he said, indeed, Allah will be testing you with a river. Whoever drinks from it is not of me, and whoever does not taste it is indeed of me, except for one who takes from it in the hollow of his hand. But they drank from it, except a few of them. Then when they crossed it, and with those who believed, they said, There is no power for us today against Goliath and his soldiers. They're getting a lot of stuff mixed up. The Quran is just a completely man-made book, so they kind of mix up all the stories. But don't get distracted with it. You understand what they're trying to do. But those who were certain they would meet Allah said, how many a small company has overcome a large company by permission of Allah, and Allah is with the patient. So what is it doing here? This here is blending two Old Testament episodes. This is taking from the Gideon test on Judges 7, 5-6, and Saul's battle against Goliath from Samuel 1:17. Samuel 1:17 is when this ends. That means all of Samuel's wars, okay? All of Samuel's wars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All wars are done, are accepted. The author of the Quran misidentifies the story details. We understand that it's a man-made book. But the era actually exposes something deeper. Despite mixing narratives, the Quran still attributes the wars of Judges and Samuel to Allah's will. Despite the mixing narratives, the Quran still attributes the wars of Judges and Samuel to Allah's will. No verse calls these conquests sinful or unjust. Thus, when Muslims condemn Yahweh's commands to annihilate Amalekites or the Canaanites, they forget their own scripture portrays those very same battles as acts of obedience to Allah. Surah 2, 250-251, the next verse. And when they advanced to meet Goliath and his soldiers, they said, our Lord, pour upon us patience and plant firmly our feet. Give us the victory over disbelieving people. So they defeated them by the permission of Allah. And David killed Goliath. And Allah gave him the kingship and wisdom and taught him of that which he willed. And if Allah had not repealed some people by others, the earth would have been corrupted. But Allah is full of bounty to the worlds. Now, what is the Quran finally doing in 250 and 251? The Quran summarizes the victory of David over Goliath. That's the same event recorded in 1 Samuel 17. It explicitly says that the victory happened by the permission of Allah. So the Quran leaves zero ambiguity that Allah granted David victory. Allah gave him kingship and wisdom. Allah's action prevented corruption on earth. Therefore, every war from Samuel, in 1 Samuel, Saul's war, through David, is portrayed as Allah's will and mercy. This means that according to the Quran, the destruction of Israel's enemies, including the Amalekites, was divinely ordained and not condemned by Allah. So again, when Muslims sit down and say, "Yo, Yahweh commanded genocide in 1 Samuel 15, the counter is simple. Your Quran confirms the Allah himself ordained those same wars and declared them to be righteous and rewarded their kings for fighting them. The Muslim cannot reject Yahweh's command without rejecting the Quran's own narrative. He cannot do that. In 252, it says, and these are the verses, Allah, which we recite to you, O Muhammad, in truth and indeed you're among the messengers. So he's giving this, telling Muhammad in the 7th century about this. He's telling Muhammad about those wars, the first Amalekite wars in the 7th century. And he says, I am telling you that these are wars declared by me. Ya Jahil Muslims who keep on saying, oh, you guys killed the babies, you killed the this. Your Allah also endorsed it. This is a closing verse. This closing verse removes any possible escape hatch. The Quran explicitly authenticates the story of Saul and David's war as true revelations from Allah. That includes the killing, unaliving the Muslims criticized in 1 Samuel 15. So the Quran endorses genocide. The Muslims' objective to those Old Testament passages collapses because Allah himself has sat down and authenticated it. So what we see in summary from chapter 2, 246 to 252, the very war that these Muslims come to us about has been authorized by their own God. Boom. Boom. The Quran confirms the Old Testament according to Saul and David. It attributes these battles and victories directly to Allah. It never condemns or retracts the divine command to destroy. It even sanctifies the Ark of the Covenant, the same relic Muslims often call idolatrous. Therefore, when Muslims claim the Bible is corrupt or Yahweh commanded genocide, they are indicting their own scriptures, baby, which confirms those very commands. Let me take you somewhere else. In the hadith, it talks about the Canaanite wars. You see this hadith here, guys? Sahih Bukhari 3124. Sahih Bukhari 3124 is talking about another war where they said a genocide happened. And this is Muhammad saying that he was behind that war, that Allah was behind that war. The Prophet said, I'll read a little bit and then I'll start doing the breakdown. A prophet said, a prophet among the prophets carried out a holy military expedition. So he said to his followers, anyone who has married a woman and wants to consummate the marriage and has not done so yet should not accompany me, nor should a man who has built a house but has not completed its roof, nor a man who has sheep or she-camels and is waiting for the birth of the young ones. Okay, and it continues on and on and on. I'll give you the breakdown. The summary of that hadith is this. Okay, it's Sahih Bukhari 3124. Yet another war where the Canaanites, they were said to wipe out the Canaanites. Again, involving Allah. So, a prophet led a military expedition and said, whoever has just married and not consummated, built a house and not roofed, or is awaiting livestock birth should not go. He reached a town near Asr and said to the son, then it says in the hadith, he says to the son, you are under Allah's command, and I am under Allah's command. O Allah, hold it back. And the son stopped until Allah granted victory. After the battle, the fire would consume the lawful booty, but it did not. The Prophet said some booty had been stolen. Tribe by tribe they pledged, the guilty hands stuck until the stolen gold head, like a cow's head, was produced. These guys they got Hinduism in there, dude. They like the cows. The Prophet said, Allah then made the war booty lawful to us. That's in Bukhari 3124. Let's break it down, folks. Listen carefully. Muhammad said a prophet among the prophets carried out a military expedition, and then he gives the instructions. If anyone has married a woman, not yet consummated the marriage, he should not accompany me. If anyone has built a house and not completed it, he should not accompany. Anyone has a sheep or camels about to give birth, he should not accompany me. Where is that from? That is from Deuteronomy 20 verse 1 through 9. Exactly the same exemptions Moses gave before the battle. That means the hadith is quoting the Torah law and attributing it to Allah. Then Muhammad continues and he says, when a prophet reached the town near the time of the afternoon prayer, and he said to the son, you are under Allah's order and I'm under Allah's order. Oh Allah, stop it. And the son stopped until Allah made him victorious. Where is that from? That's from Joshua 10, 12 to 14, where Joshua commands the sun to stand still so Israel can defeat the Canaanites. Muhammad presents that as a work of Allah. Then he says, when they gathered the spoils of war, fire came from heaven to consume the booty, but refused to burn it because someone had stolen it. They searched, they found the thief, they returned the gold, and fire consumed it. Where is that from? That's from Joshua 7. The story of Achan and the stolen plunder. So in one hadith, Muhammad confirms Deuteronomy 20, Joshua 7, and Joshua 10. Every one of them describing God's command to destroy the Canaanites. And again, the narration says that these were from Allah. So in there, the command was to eradicate them, completely wipe them out. So here you have another war where there Allah has, just like the Amalekite wars, Saul's war and David's wars, that was authorized by their Allah. Now this Canaanite war is authorized by their Allah. But ya jahil, ya low tier, slow tier jahils don't know their own history. We as Christians have to learn it and teach them. We as Christians have to learn it and teach them. That's what's going on. So when someone claims that the Old Testament weren't from God, you simply ask, then why does your own prophet affirm word for word? Why does he invoke the same miracles, the same sun standing still, the same burning of the plunder, and call it obedience to Allah? Boom. Let me show you another thing, that when the Amalekites died, the Amalekites they weren't really wiped off. It's just language. It's just hyperbolic language used. And I'll show you proof in other places they use hyperbolic language. Similar to this. Because if the Amalekites had all been wiped out, like they said, we wouldn't find this. 1 Samuel 27:8, and David and his men went up and raided the Jerserites and Girzarites and the Amalekites, for those nations were inhabitants of land from the old. Why it proves the survival? Because after 1 Samuel 15, Amalekites are still present in the south. David conducts raids against them. In 1 Samuel 30, verse 1, it says, now it happened when David and his men came to Ziklag, the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag attacked the south in Ziklag, attacked Ziklag and burnt it with fire. The Amalekites are active raiders. What does it prove? They still survived it. They're active raiders, burning Ziklag and taking captives long after Saul's campaign. Saul's campaign is finished. In his campaign, if he wiped out all the Amalekites, how are we finding them all around? It's hyperbolic language. In 1 Samuel 30 verse 13, then David said to him, to whom do you belong? Where are you from? And he said, I am the young man from Egypt, a servant of an Amalekite, which proves the Egyptian identifies his master as an Amalekite, and they're still a functioning people with servants. 1 Samuel 30:17, then David attacked them from twilight until the evening of the next day. Not a man of them escaped, except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. Why does it prove survival? The text explicitly said 400 Amalekites escaped. That's a direct statement of survivors. 2 Samuel 1:8-10, the verse says, so he said to me, who are you? So I answered him, I am an Amalekite. Then David said to the young man who told him, where are you from? And he answered, I am the son of a stranger, an Amalekite. Why does it prove survival again? Right after Saul's death, a man self-identifies as an Amalekite. Whatever you think of his story, his ethnic identity stands. For 2 Samuel 8:12 and 1 Chronicles 18:11, from Syria to Moab, from people of Ammon to Philistines, from Amalek, from the spoils of Hadadezer. Why does it prove survival? David dedicates spoils taken from the Amalek among other nations, indicating an ongoing conflicts and remaining Amalekite groups. They're still remaining. 1 Chronicles 4:43, and they defeated the rest of the Amalekites who had escaped and have dwelt there to this day. Why does it prove survival? Chronicles records a later action in Hezekiah era. The context is, for cross-references, 4:41, where the Simeon's descendants strike the Amalekite survivors living in Seir. Centuries after Saul and David. Centuries after Saul and David. They're still surviving, bro. The phrase who has escaped is explicit. Esther 3:1. After these kings, Ahasuerus promoted Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite. Why it likely points to survival? Agagite is traditionally taken as the descendant of Agag, the Amalekite king of 1 Samuel 15. While some debate the term's exact force, Jewish and Christian readings have long seen this as an Amalekite's line persisting through the Persian period, fitting the broader survival pictures already known directly to Samuel Chronicles. Bottom line, my folks, direct explicit survival, 1 Samuel 27:8, 31, 30, 13, 30, 17, 2 Samuel 1:8-10, 13, 2 Samuel 8-12, 1 Chronicles 18:11, 1 Chronicles 4:43. Tradition continues in Esther 3:1, centuries later. Okay? Now, I've got the 1 Samuel 30:17 and 1 Chronicles 4:43 as my mic drop. 400 young men fled in first, so they fled. They weren't wiped out. The rest of the Amalekites who had escaped in 1 Chronicles 4:43. These make it undeniable that the utterly destroy functions as a war idiom for total defeat, devotion, not every last person, as in having an arithmetic wipeout. It isn't. It isn't. So